Hello, and welcome to another episode of the First Issue Club Special Edition, brought to you by Space Camper IPA from Boulevard Brewing Company. Yum yum, give me some. Send me straight to the moon and my taste buds into another galaxy. Space Camper IPA, the only IPA for the First Issue Club.
Yum.
Now, why do I say special edition? Special edition? Whoa, I'm so excited I'm stumbling over my S's.
Hey, that's something we absolutely love here at First Issue Club and just
Right.
as comic book collectors in general, is that when there's something special that it's like a collector's edition and something unique to a certain time and place, gotta have it.
Gotta have it. Need to collect it. Need to preserve it.
And sometimes
Only look, no touch.
sometimes you collect experiences, don't you?
That's why I go to concerts.
That's right, and it's why you listen to podcasts.
In general. The the moment you can revisit over and over and over again. Like I said at the top, this is a very special episode because we are recording from the distant past. This is a pre-record. Something we're going to start doing while Andy gets acquainted with his new child.
Yep.
And while the holidays kind of greet us at the front door, we're approaching Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of family in town, so we don't always have the time to get together and hang.
This reminds me of that classic SNL skit where Tom Brokaw is
Oops, I shit my pants.
having to record all of the scenarios for when Gerald Ford may have
Gerald
died.
Ford died today.
So he can go on vacation. Or was that a Dana Carvey show skit? It's one of the two.
It's one of them. At the senseless age of 88, attacked by wolves.
So what are some news hits that we might need to cover since we're recording this in the past? Stanley Zombie came back to life. That's huge news.
Right. Upset that his cameos have been, parlayed into just billboard appearances in Deadpool Wolverine.
Yep. Rob Liefeld retired again.
Came out of retirement and then
Came out of
retired
retirement
again.
and then retired
Forced
again.
retirement. James Tionian writes another classic that no one knew was going to happen. It was just a surprise release he did.
Surprise drop, yeah.
Yeah, about Steamboat Willie. The gritty interpretation of Steamboat Willie, since now that's in the public domain.
Can't wait.
What else? I don't want to make a funny bit about any political news because
no.
God only knows
don't curse us.
what will happen.
Yeah.
So that's the funny future bit that
All
we
right,
did.
bit exhausted.
Yeah, put it to bed. No, but we're gonna do this new little thing. You and I have been talking about getting some evergreens locked and loaded.
Yeah.
And we were kind of racking our brain of what we thought would be good content. And it's hard. It's hard to think of pre-recorded content that people will enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard finding extra time to record them.
Oh, for sure.
Thankfully, we found the time and the right subject matter, I believe.
All right.
If you will allow me to kind of explain what we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
There are times in the comic book community when books go beyond the comic book community. They go outside the walls of your LCS and they enter casual territory. We're talking meemaws, papaws, cousins asking you about this book that they heard had been made into a TV show or a movie.
Yeah, right.
And so you're left scrambling at Thanksgiving dinner, still reeling from your racist uncle saying something. Now you have to explain a comic book.
Yeah.
Well, we thought, hey, let's help you out there. And you can just say, you know what, go listen to the First Issue Club.
So you don't have to explain
So
it.
you don't have to explain it.
Got it.
So that's what we're doing.
Okay. I feel better about this. I thought you were going to say, we're giving you information so you can pretend to know about the thing.
No.
Everyone's expecting you to know about it because you're the nerd of the family.
Nope.
You're the black sheep.
No.
Tell me about this comic book thing.
Well, now you're the black sheep that is the belle of the ball because superhero stuff has become so popular.
That's true.
So now you're the hot commodity.
Nerds are cool.
No, what this is kind of a primer for either a comic book fan that doesn't know about this particular series,
Yeah.
or people outside of the comic book community who want to know more about said TV show or movie,
Yes.
and whether or not the source material is as good as said TV show or movie. So that's what we're here to do. And without further ado, we will be talking about Something is Killing the Children. was recently announced that a Netflix TV show is in the works.
Yeah.
They're working on the screenplay right now. So you have probably about a year before any trailers or anything start popping up.
Yeah, it'll be a while.
But we thought, hey, let's just get ahead of the curve here, have these prepared for you, because we know there's going to be questions, and we know that you'll have to answer some questions, so hopefully we can help you out here with what exactly the series is.
I think everyone understands.
Yeah. So let's move on to the series, Something is Killing the Children.
We're
gonna have to cut that audio now and make it the intro music to each one of these.
We'll send it to James Tinian and see if all
he
these
approves?
prestige TV show intros that are copying ever since Mad Men, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it had this like animated intro and these like dramatic strings. I feel like that kind of set the template for every TV show intro for like the rest of time, especially on streamers. They're all like that now.
Let's riff on that for 2 seconds.
Okay.
What kind of intro do you think that Something is Killing the Children is going to get? We're going to get dark and mysterious minor key notes and slow motion?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's it.
I think it's
I thought more of like guitar riffs of just like
no.
Something is killing the children.
It'll be nothing like what we just acapellaed.
Okay.
I think it'll be very like dissonant.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll do a lot of the like one thing that they love is like the watercolory kind of like this thing is fading in and then it takes shape into a thing once the colors settle.
Yeah.
It'll be like that with the teeth masks, which we'll get into, and the trees.
We'll get a little nod to the octopus.
Yep.
Stuffed animal.
Yeah, you see all of the little like a little tease to all the gizmos that you're gonna be like, I know what that is.
A chainsaw, perhaps.
I came early, so I know all the little
I listened to
things.
the First Issue Club episode, so I know that reference. So Something is Killing the Children from Boom Studios. Boom Studios is a comic book publisher, for those of you not in the know. Yeah. It was first released in September of 2019. Originally, Mike, I don't know if you know this, as a 5-issue limited.
That's wild.
Is how it was marketed to us. Yeah. Boom said, nope, it's only going to be 5 issues. Before issue 1 even hit the shelves, due to the response from fans and retailers, they're like, ongoing. Immediate ongoing.
Can you imagine? Like, it seems like there were so many plans laid for what this would become.
I'm almost wondering if James was going to make this like a mini series, like multiple minis coming out telling the story of Erica Slaughter.
You could always do another one.
And so instead of doing that, he was just given free rein to just continue the story indefinitely at this point.
It's been going ever since. It's up at 40 issues, and it has at least one spin-off series.
Well, we'll get into that because I have some info for you.
It's hard to talk about this without doing it in the proper order. I'll just let you roll.
No, you're good. So as you were saying, there are some spin-offs, but we're not going to focus too heavily on the spin-offs because we don't know if that TV show is going to really delve into that. But there is a Enter the House of Slaughter, which was a free comic book day handout in 2021. And then there was House of Slaughter, which is the sister series, I guess, which follows the book of the House of St. George or whatever, or those where the monster hunters live. And then there was like this Books of Slaughter trilogy that's out right now, and it's 3 one-shots. And it's Book of Slaughter, which came out in December 2022, Book of Butcher, which came out December 2023, and then there's going to be a final one called Book of Cutter, which we don't know when that's going to come out yet. Yeah. No information has been released on that.
Different houses of hunters.
Right.
There's the House of Slaughter, House of Butcher, and House of Cutter.
Which we'll get into.
Oh, excuse me.
Hey, listen,
am I just here for you to talk at me during this?
No, I'm laying the tracks.
Okay.
So that the mic train can speed off. All right? I did the hard work prep for you. I'm getting all the busy work, all the boring stuff out of the way.
Yep.
And then we can just pop off about it.
Okay.
Written by James Tinian. Artist, Werther Deladera, excuse me. I'm very bad with last names. James Tinian, at this point, has been pretty well established. He's done a ton of books, Batman books already. This is a precursor to like Wind
Yeah.
and Nice House on the Lake or whatever. So as of right now, he's like a superstar. Like Batman it's just started Batman in 2019?
He is doing Batman alongside Tom King, right?
Okay.
They're like both writing it together.
Yeah, that's right.
And I feel like at this point, James Tynion is an indie darling because we love him from Memetic, Cognetic, Eugenic,
Yep.
all of these kind of end of the world series that were horror-esque that he was doing. But Something is Killing the Children is the book that brought him to everyone's attention, and I feel like got him the solo writing gig
Sure.
for Batman moving forward. The ability to do like Department of Truth and all these other like huge mega lines
Right.
at other publishers and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So this, like you said, this was the shiny moment for James Tynion to really introduce himself to a wider audience, which is why this series is getting a TV show now, because after reading so many issues right now, it is astonishing how easy of a read it is and how eloquent and effortless the dialogue between the characters is.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. It's a couple of other things. This book is a winner of Eisner's and Harvey Awards from 2020 to 2022. Best Writer, Best New Series, Best Continuing Series. Like, it is... I don't want to understate how much this book took a hold of the comic book community, and still does to this day. I mean, this is an immediate seller at any LCS. Each issue is just another fantastic entry into the series itself. Now, I haven't read too much of House of Slaughter, the sequel series, I guess, or the parallel series. So I don't. That seems to me like it's more of a intrigue political book than more of a monster hunting.
Yeah,
series.
It's giving you an idea of what the different ranks of masks or monster hunters do, how they're organized, and kind of gives you little peeks into the lives and the characters that aren't Erica or Aaron. And it really paints a much bigger picture, like you said, of all of like the politics between the houses,
Right.
the history and background of all the things that the Order does. I really like the series. They do it in a really fun way, I think, that tells like you get like an interesting personal story through each trade of it, and then in the midst of that story being told, you're constantly like revealed more and more background of like how the houses work and stuff like that.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out then, but mainly I've just focused on Something Is Killing the Children.
Okay.
Which follows our titular character, Erica Slaughter, as she is a black mask. So she is like the hunter of the society, of the St. George Society, which means she goes out and does all the heavy hitting hard work and takes down these, for lack of a better word, monsters that is taking young children and feeding on them.
Yeah.
And multiplying and growing. And I don't know who Erica Slaughter is supposed to be based on.
You think it's based on somebody?
Well, no, she seems like just an amalgamation of different people that I've witnessed in other media.
Okay.
Like, she's definitely like a Ludgate from like Parks and Rec. Who is the actress who did in Parks and Rec? Who was the kind of bratty one who was like the assistant?
Oh, Aubrey Plaza.
Aubrey Plaza. She seems like an Aubrey Plaza.
Yeah, she's very dry.
Mixed with like, I don't know, Furiosa type character.
Yeah,
And
it's just complete badass.
Yeah, like, and
that has a heart.
Well, I mean, like, you slowly learn that she is softened from doing this so long, because she became a hunter because she defeated the monster, or I guess imprisoned the monster that killed her parents and best friend.
Yeah.
And she keeps it in like a little octopus stuffed animal thing that she carries around, kind of like a familiar to
exactly.
aid her in her journey to like help track these monsters and like get more information about the monsters she's about to fight.
Yeah. Should we talk about where the monsters come from? Or are you getting to that?
We can, yeah. I guess I really didn't know how to delve into this without being in like a full on retrospective. But like, so the monsters only children can see.
Yeah.
Because of, I don't know, their innocence, right? Like, there's like there's a switch like when you hit puberty or something when you can no longer see them.
Yeah, right.
Kind of like a reverse X-Men thing. You get your mutant powers when you hit puberty, but in something that's killing the children, you lose your ability to see monsters.
I think it's because of your sense of reality and what's real and the fear you have as a child that allows you to see these things. And the monsters are manifestations of children's fears made physical. So throughout the course of the first couple trades, you realize that one of the kids who's trying to help Erica Slaughter along her path ultimately manifested a monster out of his own fears and then started telling other kids a spooky story about the thing he was afraid of, which proliferated the fear even more and made the monster more powerful.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the crux of this, that this organization, the Order of St. George, tries to, one, take care of the monsters, and two, make it so culture at large doesn't realize that fears can manifest into physical monsters or anomalies.
Yeah.
Because then the fear cycle spins out of control.
And it takes over.
And everyone's,
fucked.
Fucked, yeah, right.
It is kind of crazy how you, even though this is kind of based in somewhat of like a fantastical sense, there is the very real reality of like, these people are like the CIA. They need to scrub these stories from the news. They need to make sure that when there is an incident, they send a group out to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't get worse. And that's why I think it's such a, not a relatable story, but like you can identify it because you can kind of associate it with something else that we have in our world, so to speak.
Right. And the one of the interesting things is that kind of the crux of Erica's story and then later Jace Butcher's story is that they are taking umbrage with the amount of killing that's done to keep these things silent, right? It's like we joined up on this organization to help save kids' lives. Now we're just willy-nillying like killing an entire town full of people in order to keep this secret from spreading.
Right. Which, I mean, that just kind of speaks to, I don't know, like, not how the world works, but like, like I think there's a military saying where it's just like, kill a few to save many or something. And it like, that's the mentality of just like, well, yeah, it is kind of a bummer we have to kill this whole town.
Yep.
But do you want the whole world to be engulfed in fear?
Yeah, right.
Like, what do you want us to do here? This is messy work. You signed up for this.
This is such an important part of what makes a good story to me is that you can see both sides of the coin, where our villains, who are just supposed to be this organization and the man, if you will, is accountable to a certain ideology that Erica finds herself not being able to be accountable to. And Erica definitely comes across as a good guy in this because she's much more altruistic. However, you could also look at the organization's plight as like, kind of, this stuff kind of has to be done at some point. Like, how do you go about it?
At this point, we're a
really
corporation now.
Yeah.
We have to do this. And the reason, and it's funny because like, as an older adult now, I can kind of see both sides of it, because the reason that Erica can be so maybe careless and naive and anarchist about her abilities is because there's a system in check now of just like being able to clean up her mess. If the whole organization was nothing but like Erica Slaughters, it would be unruly chaos with no checks or balances.
Yeah, right.
And so like, I mean, that would make for a fun story to have everyone all buttoned up and like sticking to the plan. Like, we are corporate monster killers. That's not very fun.
Speaking to the fact of not everyone can be an Erica, Erica is kind of a one-of-one character in this that gives her very much like a Luke Skywalker kind of story arc, where there's these, again, if we go back to the kind of idea of the bandanas that the characters wear and all of the different colors and organizations that they are, Erica wears a black mask. And there's another group that wears a white mask. The white masks hunt monsters in groups.
Right.
The black masks are like the special ops single person.
Yeah, they're the badasses.
Who goes in quietly and tries to take care of business without it becoming too big of a thing. And there's only like 3 of them at the House of Slaughter, which is where Erica gets her last name, Erica Slaughter. That's something really cool. And she stands out from the black masks because she was recruited. Normally they would just like kind of off these people who survive because they don't want them telling the story. But instead, she was recruited because she killed the monster that she manifested.
Yeah.
And
was able to trap it.
Yeah.
Or something or other.
She traps it later through like a house ritual. But the fact that as a 4-year-old, she was able to kill this monster, like they were kind of like, whoa, shit. She's like the future of our organization.
Yeah, they said that she had good like intuition and like perception. Yeah. Which was, like you said, unheard of at her age. And just the raw talent she had for offing a gigantic Stranger Things-esque monster.
And I think not having fear, right? Being able to like, the idea that she manifested this thing and then looked it in the face and was like bold enough to kill it is like you've kind of overcome a certain level of fear, and this job obviously can't tolerate fear.
Fear, because then your opponent gets stronger.
Right. A lot of interesting things going on here, and we're just scratching the surface.
Just scratching the surface.
It's such a complex, interesting story with so many layers.
And I don't know if dear listener, if you picked up on this or not, but earlier in the episode, I mentioned that as you get older, you lose the ability to see these monsters. Well, Mike D, everyone in this organization, the Order of St. George, is an adult.
Yeah, that's right.
How are they able to see these monsters?
There is like this artifact totem thing. And what they do is they stab themselves so hard in the head with it that it leaves a little chip of like, I don't know if you think of it as like kind
like
of
third
like
eye or something,
a chalky sort of thing that can like is sharp enough to puncture you, but breaks off a little piece that's like left in your like skull, and that imbues you with the ability to see monsters.
It's like a second sight.
Yeah, right. I haven't. If there's explanation further into like what exactly that thing is or how exactly it works, I've missed that piece of it. But like I said, House of Slaughter is one of those great things where like you're slowly piecemealed background and reasoning for all these things, and you're like, oh, cool.
So right now, how I see that artifact is kind of like how I see lightsabers, because it's just like a lightsaber. How it was explained to me was just like, oh, it's like a light sword powered by rocks. And as a kid, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, like, that's awesome, cool. And like how they explain it in the comic book was they hit someone in the head and now they can see monsters, and it's kind of like, do you get it? And we as the reader are like, oh, okay, well, no further explanation, please. That's fine.
I'll say later in the story, somebody chips theirs out. That little bit of material that's left from like impacting the side of your head. Right. So it's not a permanent thing. It can be taken away.
Sure. Yes.
An important
note.
An important note for maybe the plot of the TV show at some point.
It's not like a tattoo.
Right. Exactly.
Although a tattoo can be removed.
Nowadays.
Yeah. So let's get into the houses real quick because there's like 5 maybe. There's red masks.
Oh, the masks are not houses.
Right.
The masks are specialties.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I said that incorrectly. So let's get into some of the specialties, the
Yeah.
masks, I should say. Red is like the bookkeepers and like
Yeah.
the upkeepers of the house.
Yep. The historians.
Right. Black is like the hunters.
Yep. Solo hunters.
Solo hunters. White, group hunters. Gray is like folklore hunters. Like
yeah, I haven't read any stories focused just on the Greys yet.
They haven't done one yet.
Okay.
But when they were first introduced, I was like tingling at the
Yeah,
idea
like,
of
that
what
mean?
they are.
Yeah.
Because it sounds so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Blue is like
Tech
the
nerds.
tech
Mhm.
people.
And a lot of what the blue masks do is like the cover up town to town.
Mm-hmm. They're your
So-
man in the chair.
Stopping the spread, making sure the news doesn't cover certain stories, things like that.
Yep. And then finally there's green, who hunt dragons.
Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah, they're called like I think they're called like the St. George
Okay.
masks or something. But we haven't gotten many stories from them.
Okay.
And I think it's alluded to like that dragons are primarily like a European. They said like it's like a European
Yeah.
division,
Right.
which I thought was great that they kind of prepped you of just like these houses are all over the world.
Yep.
This isn't an Avengers thing where we're just in New York doing our superhero stuff here. Like James did such a great job of just like, no, this is like a wide multi-networked group.
Yeah.
And so I think it was kind of explained that the gray masks and the green are primarily like in Europe and Asia, where that kind of folklore.
There's much more history and
Mhm.
storytelling passed down.
Right.
And yeah, you're definitely led to believe that Saint a lot of old stories about dragons
Mm-hmm.
are potentially real things that happen,
Right.
but have been recontextualized as folk tales over time.
Mm-hmm.
But were in fact fears of such wide swaths of people
Mm-hmm.
that the monster was able to grow to such a colossal size.
Right.
So it is like a singular monster like the others,
Mm-hmm.
just fed so much fear
Right.
that it's become huge.
Which-
And you know, we've got the kind of houses now
Mm-hmm.
that can stay up on this stuff, which is why we haven't seen a dragon in so long.
Sure. In which I'm probably assuming the early blue masks, that was their job
Mm-hmm.
to make up these stories.
Yeah, make sure. Yeah, exactly right.
Like to create the folklore of just like, no. Like this,
Yep.
I'll tell you the story. And so I, if you've been listening to the show for a long time, you know that I love maps. You know that I love back history and like intricacies such as multiple weird ass houses and masks. Oh, it's
Yeah.
not houses, masks, excuse me. That kind of like have their own duty, their own job. And when you see one show up, you're like, oh shit, like a green one's here. Like, oh no, shit's going wild. I just love that early little detail. And it was given to us in such a easy and palatable way that it didn't seem like overbearing
Mhm.
or too heavy. So I just really appreciated that as a storytelling device.
Wonderful.
And then I don't want to bogart talking about this. So is there anything that you would like to specifically talk about?
Well, let me note a couple things here that I think are important to know as like someone who might want to be a little more well read on it by the time the show comes out. Obviously, the single issues are incredibly expensive and really hard to get your hands on now.
Right.
So you basically got to go to trades or the deluxe books.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend the deluxe books because you can buy them on like a lot of
Discount.
these larger retailers now for like $30 a book when they originally retailed for $50 a piece.
Right. And they come in slipcases. The deluxe ones do.
The slipcases are kind of hard to come by.
Oh, well, pardon me.
In
Maybe
my,
not.
In my research,
Did you try to buy one?
I did. Hard to find. But there's a book 1 and a book 2,
Mm-hmm.
and they stand alone really well.
Yeah.
one interesting thing you might want to know as a reader that could be confusing is that book 1 is trades 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then book 2 is trades 5, 6, and 7. So there is a trade number 4
Mm-hmm.
that didn't make its way into either of the hardcovers. And that was to keep the hardcovers as nice self-contained stories that are told from beginning to end.
Okay.
So between every 3 trade arc,
Mm-hmm.
there's kind of like a bit of back history storytelling
Right.
in Something is Killing the Children. And at some point, they're going to release a deluxe edition of all of the back matter stuff.
Oh, I love that.
But in the interim, I just bought the paper trade for the 4th volume.
Okay.
So just
What issues are the fourth? What issues are in the 4th volume?
It's like 17 through 20 or something like that.
Oh, okay. Issue 20 was amazing. That issue 20 alone won an award. It was so good. Just by the by.
Yeah. And then I've read, you can buy House of Slaughter really cheap.
Yeah.
I just bought almost all of it in a Midtown sale
Mm-hmm.
ahead of this conversation for $1.13 an issue. So that's kind of like bargain bin stuff and great supplementary content that's, again, not necessary, but really enriches your reading experience. And if you like Something is Killing, then you're going to like House of Slaughter.
Written by James Tynion, right?
Yeah, James Tynion and another writer.
Yeah. So
it's like kind of co-written.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's one of those things where, you know how they did Christopher Chaos?
Mm-hmm.
Where James Tynion kind
mm-hmm.
of plots it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of might be the situation because he's producing at least 1 or maybe 2 or 3 shows that we
know about,
may or may not be aware of. And then he's got like a ton of other ongoing stuff. And then he keeps up his Substack, which is like a product in and of itself.
His Substack is like the extra features of a DVD. Like
That
is like his baby.
He goes really in depth. He got paid a pretty solid amount of money to focus for a year on like creating a lot of Substack content.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the sole reason he left DC.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, imagine having like the most coveted job in comics, which is writing Batman, and then just being like, peace out, I'm going to write a web journal instead.
They offered me a ton of money.
So they offered him a lot of money. I was probably worth it because it like put Substack on the map for like all comic book fans and creators, and it's such a huge thing in the comic book community now.
Mm-hmm.
But interesting stuff.
And kind of radical at the time. Like it made waves when he was just like, "No, I'm leaving Batman."
Yeah, we didn't know. It was like, are you only going to publish comics through Substack now? We kind of didn't really have our minds wrapped around how exactly it was going to be.
And he was like, maybe
used moving
I don't
forward.
know. Okay, what else? Let's talk about kind of the vibe of Something is Killing the Children. I think from context you can tell that this book is creepy, scary, action-packed. Not for a younger audience as far as reading or probably watching.
Yep.
Just keep that in mind if you're going to buy a trade for someone for Christmas or something. Mm-hmm. Like there definitely is an age limit to who can really enjoy this book.
And I would say I'd call it more of a thriller than I would a horror. It's certainly got elements of a horror because it's got monsters and killing and stuff in it, but it's definitely paced and plotted a lot like a thriller, but just happens to have monsters instead of,
and that's why it's so
sleeper agents.
That's why it's so eloquent, because like it's not about the monsters.
Yeah, right.
It's about like detective work and building relationships and expectations and finding out what kind of piece you are in the cog machine of this secret society, I guess. And like and really, like, the monsters themselves are an allegory for fear and like how to destroy fear and how to like come together in grief and there's some like LGBTQ stuff undertones throughout this.
Yep.
That is pretty eloquent. So it's a pretty layered onion here as far as a series goes. So as far as adaptation for the TV series, they're gonna have a lot to work with.
Yeah, there's a ton of iconic characters and really cool character design too. So so excited for them to do the Black Mask from the House of Cutter, who most of our House of Slaughter people wear their masks on the lower half of their face, and our House of Cutter people wear them on the top half of their faces, like Daredevil in the TV show. And those like little aesthetic differences and change like are just like so rad. The character design is so cool. That particular character is a lot of fun. There's a character that her name might be like Joyce or something.
Okay.
And she's got 2 different color eyes and like a shock of red hair, and uses these like fanned out kind of like J-shaped blades. That's a really cool character. She's a White Mask. Head of the White Masks in the House of Slaughter is really cool.
Oh, right.
Each of the heads of each house are called dragons to the lore of the history, and they wear these gold jaw things over their faces to kind of show their status. I mean, a ton of other characters. I could keep going on. In the House of Slaughter, there's a character who lost both of his arms to a monster when he was a kid and stayed kind of like small. I don't know if he's got like stunted growth or what exactly it is, but he's mute, and they call him Bait because they just kind of like wheel him out, but he's like such a badass. And I mean such an iconic cool character design.
Oh, right.
Where he has like the 2 sleeves hanging down.
Yes.
And just looks like a wallowing little
like a
kid.
Poor me.
Yeah, and then just completely kicks ass. like when I think of them revealing these characters on the show,
right,
it gets me so giddy, which, you know, it reminds you a lot about the other comic book shows that do really well, where, you know, in Walking Dead, they introduce Michonne and you're like, yes, like there she is.
Well, and even like shows like Umbrella Academy or Sweet Tooth, it's like when given the proper amount of time and like involvement from like the crew and people behind the scenes, like they can succeed in these like Sweet Tooth shouldn't have been as good as it was. Like it's about basically the island of Dr. Monroe across the world, and you would think that would be such a hokey story and like so hard to tell, but like it's beautiful. Like Netflix did an amazing job on that series. And even like Umbrella Academy, like all those characters are wild. There's a guy that's like been mutated with like a monkey.
Yeah.
That like the practical effects they use for that character are insane. So like it can be done. And so that's what makes me so excited. Well, and also because like James Tynion is involved with the writing of the script.
Yes. You would hope they would then pace it like the comic book, which would be
slow.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because then you're not just going to be like, here's 20 cool characters at a time. And then you're like, what do I do with all these people?
Yeah.
Like, that's not the way to do it. I'm really interested there. Like the way you can do comics, like I mentioned, the fourth trade of this is kind of like, here's the story back in time. Like, how do you handle that in a TV show? There's a lot of shows that do kind of like here are 2 stories in parallel. There's the past story and then the present story.
Right.
And then they merge at some point. Or here is the story of the organization, and here's the story of this person that's like kind of living this solo mission, and then eventually they'll collide and we'll figure out how the 2 are related and et cetera.
I've seen shows handle it where like they'll have 2 episodes set in modern time. 1 episode is like set in a previous time period that kind of explains either a character's motive or growth that we met in the first 2 episodes to explain them more, and we get a newfound respect for them.
Yeah. I reference this all the time, so sorry if you're a longtime First Issue Club listener and you're hearing me say this again. But I really credit Orange is the New Black for being one of those shows that was a longer running series and then started doing this thing where every couple episodes was a character study of one of the role players. That like you had all these interesting like character actors.
Right.
And then they gave all of them a background once they realized the show was going to last long enough. And it created so much more empathy for all the other people that existed throughout the prison. And by the end of that season, you were like, oh my God, like, what a rich cast of characters here. And I think that would be great to treat it almost like House of Slaughter.
Sure.
The series does it, wherein, you know, you're taking a character, kind of showing them for an entire storyline, and then jumping back into the larger story that they might be like a smaller role player in.
Right, because we're first introduced to Erica Slaughter, the main protagonist.
Yeah.
She's already established. She's like an ass-kicking machine.
And we don't find out why she's Erica Slaughter for a while.
For like,
It's really cool, like the way they kind of piecemeal like stuff that you're just like, oh, she's a badass, but we don't know much about like her background or who she is or where she came from. But the first trade or two are very much like, in the next 10 minutes or so, you're going to get a call.
Yeah.
And
she's so matter of fact.
After you get that call, you're going to want to release me. And we can do that now, or you can do that later. But I'm telling you, I'm your friend in this situation.
Right.
And you've got nothing to gain from like X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So just don't do it. And she talks so many people like out of like the sane decision just based on like how confident and matter of fact she is.
Right.
And then these people get these phone calls from this like organization you're not aware of, and they're just like, who the fuck is this person? Right. Where you have like whole police, like a police chief in a small town just being like,
fine, just do it. Do whatever the fuck you're going to do.
Just like, don't trailer.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
so
so
like,
wild.
She's got to be the lead suspect in this. And then they're just like, trust me, leave her alone.
Yeah. If you heard the phone call that I just had.
What do you know that I don't know? And they're just like, honestly, nothing, but.
Yeah. Like, we're all fucked. People are still dying.
Yeah, right.
It's, The character of Erica Slaughter is so, like you said, confident and cool, and like big sister who smokes cigarettes but lets you listen to her CDs, like so you can kind of get like residual cool just by being around her.
Yeah.
Like she definitely, if you allow it, empowers you to be something bigger than yourself.
Sure.
Which is kind of what we see with like the kid that in the first arc is like always hanging around her, wanting to help. She's like, okay, fine. You can hang around. You might die. You might die. But if I say something, you gotta listen. And like, eventually the kid's always just like, yeah, okay, I'll listen.
Right.
But it's just so cool. And with the right actress in there, it's going to be fucking dynamite.
I love the huge eyes. They got to find somebody with like the biggest eyes on earth. When you see the covers for this, you're just like, oh, every character in this book is going to have big eyes because that's the style of this artist.
Yeah.
And it's not like that character is just drawn with like huge eyes to be like a distinctive kind of character.
Yeah.
She's got this really rad, like old Russian style kind of like army coat, this like green coat that
comes
like,
up right to her nose.
Comes up right to her nose, which kind of keeps the motif of the Black Mask thing when she's got the handkerchief over her face.
Right. Yeah.
So I love that choice too.
Such a fantastic series, and I mean we kind of knew, we didn't know in what way, but we knew it was going to be either a movie or a TV show because of just the fanatic response from the comic book community to this series. When that typically happens, Hollywood takes notice, and they're like, "How can we get more money out of this?" And then they do what they do. Yeah. I'm confident that's going to happen to Beneath the Trees in one way or another.
Yeah, I could totally see that happening.
That could be like some kind of HBO cartoon or whatever. If that does happen, stay tuned for that episode. We won't get into it here. But yeah, so that's kind of the fast and loose intro to something that's killing the children. You have a rebellious young woman, monster hunter, who is very set in her ways about taking care of monster problems. Kind of like the Grinch, has a heart of gold just underneath a lot of trauma that is slowly getting bigger and bigger. A lot of intrigue, a lot of thrills, chills, and spills. A lot of blood action.
And yeah, we've given you a lot of information. If this is your first time kind of like hearing what Something is Killing the Children is all about, or you've been curious about it for a long time, I'll say that like we haven't spoiled much.
We haven't spoiled anything.
We've given like a lot of like details surrounding like kind of how the world works.
Mm-hmm.
But if you haven't read it, do yourself a favor and get it, because it reads fantastic in a graphic novel format. It's just like so easy breezy. I'm almost glad that I fell off of the floppies at some point, just because I had the experience of reading so much of it for the first time, just back to back to back to back.
Oh, and by the way, you can read 20 issues like in an afternoon.
Yeah, totally.
This thing reads so quick, which is, good because it's good because it helps you digest a lot of material quickly, because this world is so enriching that you'll want to revisit it. Like I already want to revisit like the first 2 arcs of this thing, because it's just the way it was spoon-fed to me was masterful. But if you do want to get it for yourself or for your family member or friends, you can go to your local comic book shop, or there are many online retailers like Things from Another World, Midtown. They will either have the trades, probably not a lot of the single issues in the early ones, but don't worry about that because you want to focus on trades and collected editions. You can also go digital. You can go on Comixology and get issues like that, or on maybe Humble Bundle will do a collection closer to the TV release. What else?
If you're a collector, I don't want to advise you on whether or not you should try to buy the first issue of this thing.
If you're going to do it now. As soon as you hear this episode.
I don't know about that, because lately it's been $900, and a month ago it was $600.
It's going to be more as soon as the TV show comes out.
It's going to ebb and flow.
Well, actually, you know what? Not true, because we did an episode about this. About how
a lot of times the hype before the show is much bigger than the hype after the show. Let's say the show is a massive success.
Mm-hmm.
People have seen it now. There's no anticipation, though.
Mm-hmm.
And that just crashes prices a lot of the time. So
you can get the first issue for $300.
I don't know. Do what you want, but I wouldn't. I don't know that.
Buyer beware. Don't try to get the single issues.
I don't know that I would spend $900 on the first issue at this point. That's kind of crazy.
Focus on the trades and the collected editions. They look better on your shelf anyway.
Yeah, you can buy the entire series of the main line and the side story for under $100.
Yeah. Probably if you do a little bit of searching, probably under like $60. So yeah, get collected editions. Don't let younger kids read this because it is kind of gruesome at times and there is some foul language. Unless you got a cool younger kid, then let them read it. I don't care. Here's how to tell. If your kid has pegs on their bike, they can read this. Don't buy single issues in like 1 through 10 because they're going to be so massively overpriced. Just get it digitally. And more of a thriller than a horror. Would you say?
Yep.
Any other information you want to relay to the people while we have them?
Excelsior!
Oh, until next time.
Bye.
Bye.